Hey, g'day guys, this is AussieStig. Today we'll be checking out D-BOX's Gen3 1.5 inch quad motion system. D-BOX motion systems are officially endorsed by the FIA. The 4250i Gen3 system forms the second half of this awesome combo from Playseat and D-BOX. So grab a cuppa, sit back and enjoy the video, mate. Alright, the 4250i kit arrived in 4 boxes. The 2 largest boxes contained the actuators and ACM units, pre-wired and ready to go. The contents of the other 2 boxes consisted of L-shaped brackets, non-captive feet and assorted cables, as well as the KCU unit. Let's move on to installing the Gen3 system. The platform was a relatively blank canvas, so I had the freedom to install the 4250i the best way I saw fit. Obviously, we're looking at the underside of the platform at the moment. You can see the complete install here. And what's important for me is cable management. I love to have everything tidy and buttoned up. The less cables visible, the better. It gives a really neat look to the whole project. The primary ACM drives the front 2 actuators and the secondary the rear. I added some Regu foam, which is a special type of rubber that absorbs vibrations. This will put less strain on the electronics within the ACMs. I routed the power cable from the rear of the ACM to the front of the rig. The primary ACM is daisy chained to the secondary by a network cable. Also, there's a connection for the power converter which is placed on the platform. The KCU unit is connected to the ACM via a similar network cable. So basically all the components for the 4250i kit are mounted on the underside of the platform. So with the Gen3 install complete, let's flip the platform over. As you can see, it's a completely clean top side. So the only cables that are visible now is the cable that connects the actuator to the ACMs. Connecting the Playseat Sensation Pro, there were 8 holes drilled in the platform, and those correspond with the underside of the Sensation Pro. 2 at the rear, 2 just behind the pedal deck, and then 4 in the pedal deck itself. Gives a really solid connection to the platform. Finally, we have the Playseat and D-BOX combo together, all wired up and ready to go. And before we get into the rig and start driving it, the first thing is to head over to D-BOX's website and grab the motion core drivers for the control panel and game center. Once that's installed, you can open the game center up, and the first thing that it'll do is populate the list with the currently installed titles in your PC. You'll then be able to download profiles for each of those. And once you install those, you can start off with the default settings. Check out how they feel before you actually go ahead and start changing things. You can go on to creating your own profiles. My advice would be to clone the default settings first and then create a profile. For instance, in iRacing, I'm typing in the Mustang V8 Supercar. I'm creating a unique profile for that car, and then I can muck around with the settings and not worry that I've lost my defaults in case I want to go back to those. In terms of parameters, there's a lot of different parameters you can use. Does what it says on the tin. Simple interface, neat. I'm happy to use it. It's quite simple. It's really set and forget. Not much else you have to do to it. Occasionally update things when you get the prompt to update a title or the actual motion core software itself. And that's a look at D-BOX's Game Center software. So after connecting everything up, installing the software and getting everything up and running, let's check out what this motion system can actually do. Okay guys, the first car we're going to hop into is the KTM X-Bow GT4, and we'll be driving Spa. While we're doing that, we'll check out the specs of the 4250i Gen3 system by D-BOX. Let's head out on circuit, head off towards Eau Rouge, and check out how D-BOX handles the X-Bow. First thing straight away is it's got quite a snappy feel to it, especially the gear shifts. They give you a nice shove in the back. You do see that the system itself is quite reactive to my inputs, so if I turn in a little bit more aggressively, you can see the body roll increase, and with heavy acceleration or braking gets the pitch going. All the driving I did was in VR. The immersion level is through the roof. It's quite a convincing and immersive experience to drive in VR and use the D-BOX system at the same time. Great feeling. Next up, let's head off to Zandvoort and we'll jump into iRacing and the Renault Formula 3.5. The great thing about the D-BOX system is that if you drive with a number of different cars, you can feel the weight of each car. An open wheeler, for instance, feels very agile, very nimble and very reactive, whereas a V8 Supercar going around Bathurst feels heavier. You can feel the weight of the car that you're driving. You can feel it's a heavier sedan instead of an open wheeler. Also in iRacing, when it's all tuned up, you get really great crisp gear shifts. You can feel every little bump and niggle in the circuit surface, as well as what the car's doing itself. Slightly different view you have here with the GoPro. You have a good sense of how much the platform's moving when driving a open wheeler on quite a bumpy circuit. And flying around, you can see it gives you a good shake. And looking now a little bit more closely at the underside of the platform itself, you get a good idea of how much the D-BOX Gen3 system's working underneath you. You can see the Regufoam strips between the ACMs and the bottom of the platform. Great feeling in this car. I love driving open wheelers on Zandvoort. It's a great flowing circuit and gives you a good sense of speed. Now we head back down under to Bathurst and we jump in a Mustang V8 Supercar. Also a fantastic experience driving this in iRacing. I have the cockpit set up so it's more or less mimics the V8 Supercar cockpit, with the sequential shifter very close to the steering wheel and up a little bit higher. Again, really crisp gear shifts. Feels extremely immersive, and the contrast between this car and the Formula Renault, for instance, is you can really feel the weight of the car. Where the Formula Renault is probably 600 kilos or less, the V8 Supercar is way over a tonne. Obviously it's going to react differently on its suspension, and you can definitely feel that with the D-BOX system. I wouldn't call it lumbering. It's because the car is stiffly sprung and it's a heavier weight. The suspension does have a bit more travel than a open wheeler car would. So when you hit a curb or go over a large bump, the suspension soaks it up a little bit more than it would if it was a open wheeler car. That said, I had some of the most fun with the V8 Supercar around Bathurst. That gave me a good sense of speed and a good sense of weight of the car, and it really felt like I was driving a heavy machine around the track, which gives the Gen3 system a good run for its money. Reactivity of the D-BOX system is fantastic, and you can definitely see it's working hard to reproduce the effects and the G's that I'm feeling in-game. Exactly what it's supposed to do. And now we're heading over to Imola. One of my favourite cars in sim racing is the Ferrari F2004 in the Assetto Corsa. I thought it might be nice to just do a complete full lap, and you can watch the rig reacting to my inputs from two different angles. Not a super fast lap. I did about a 119. My best is a low 118. Really great drive. Love driving that car. Okay, now time for final thoughts, and we'll be doing that while we're driving the Porsche 956 around the Nordschleife. Also one of my favourite cars and one of my favourite ways to drive is with heel and toe. And again, this car feels totally different than the cars I previously drove. It has a lot more downforce, and with the manual gearbox, everything's just a lot more interactive. It gives you a real sense of being in the car. The GoPro from above gives you a really great idea of how much the D-BOX is working. You can't see the actuators, but you can see how much the rig's moving, and that gives you a good idea of what it feels like to drive. I have to say I had a lot of fun installing this system on the platform that was supplied by Playseat, and marrying the D-BOX and Playseat together, just a match made in heaven for me. The Playseat has a fantastic GT seating position, one of the best I've ever sat in, and I guess filling in all the gaps with VR, motion and a great seating position, you couldn't wish for a more immersive combination. Extremely compact as well. You have a very small footprint, which is a bonus because you don't have to have such a large room to be able to house something like this. To sum up the 4250i Gen3 quad motion system by D-BOX, I would say it's one of the best on the market. There's nothing really that has the plug and play ability, the ease of use and the support that this product has in terms of title compatibility and the absolute fine tuning that you can do to each title/car. I haven't come across any other system that could compare to this. I had a great time making this video. I was able to be creative with some of the solutions that I thought would give it the best look. The end result is absolutely fantastic. The two products together, the Playseat Sensation Pro and the D-BOX 4250i Gen3 system, just a great combination. And add VR to that, driving an open wheeler, driving a V8 Supercar or a 956 around the Nordschleife, it gives you that sense of place. So you're sat in the cockpit, there's no distractions, you feel the suspension moving underneath you. The D-BOX system reproduces all the telemetry faithfully, so you have that authentic feel. Driving over bumps as well, for instance, obviously the front wheels hit the bump first and then the rear wheels, so you can actually feel as if you're driving over something. I would like to thank D-BOX for loaning me this 4250i Gen3 system, and Playseat as well for the British Racing Green Playseat Sensation Pro. If you liked the video, please hit the like and subscribe buttons, and do stay tuned for more to come from AussieStig.